From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine on this Monday. I'm Nick Barris. I'm here live and direct. Last week we had several tape shows. I was off for a few days, but back with a live program today, and we're glad to do it. It's going to be something I think that affects all of us. We're going to talk about it. We've talked about it before. It seems in some ways to actually be getting worse. It's the whole issue of supply chain, all right? And, you know, specifically a good example of how it's really affecting people is the baby formula issue and what's happening with all of that. And as you see, so the phone number's up there, baby formula and chain and supply issues and what's going to influence all of that. By the way, this morning we're not only coming to you here on News Channel 5 Plus, where you're welcome to call in at that number if you have a question or comment, but we're also streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com. So if any of you have questions or comments there you'd like to share, you can post and I'll try to get it on with our guest this morning, who's been on before and he knows his stuff when it comes to supply chain. And that is Richard Tarpey. Good morning to you from MTSU. It's good to have you on. You've been following this closely, I know.
I have.
As a professor at MTSU, you were in the business world before that. Yes. So you're, I think, I guess in the know when it comes to the issues that are at play here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, a little bit.
I mean, is it getting worse since you last came on? What's it been, about a month since you've come on? We talked about
a month,
it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, of course, fuel prices are worse than last time I was here. They took a little trend down when the government released some of the oil out of the emergency reserves, which everybody knew that wasn't going to do a whole lot of good. Right. They came down a little bit, but now gas prices are back up at $4, back over $4. So inflation has not really changed. They keep saying, the government keeps saying it's peaking, it's peaking. Mm-hmm. I think the last April's numbers were 8%, if I'm not mistaken, which is a little down from the 11% in February and March. So although they say it's peaking and going down a little, it's still 8%. That's still a lot. Yeah. Right? Prices going up 8%.
Well, I mean, exactly. So in some ways, it's continued to get worse. There's a lot of factors that are at play here. And the one thing we kind of wanted to focus, because I've seen so much on it of late, and these emergency, I guess, what do they call it? Operation Fly Formula. Bringing forward. But there are so many families out there. And I got to be honest with you, as a father myself, it's been years, I didn't realize just how dependent so many families are on baby formula, and what a huge role it plays. But that, you think, is a good example of where this supply chain is really hitting home and the crises we're having, don't you think? I mean,
it is.
Break it down. I know you're not a baby formula expert, but you certainly are when it comes to transporting and why this is such a problem right now. So let's look at baby formula.
Let's look at baby formula. Okay. So that particular industry is a great example of multiple issues all happening at one time. So we have the pandemic, which impacted the supply chain for the ingredients for baby formula. So that was all going on through 2020, 2021. Another thing that happened with baby formula specific is in 2020, the demand actually went down. It was flat to down. So the companies stopped producing as much because as demand goes down, they don't want to produce a bunch and have inventory because that's going to cost money. So they changed their production in 2021 to lower it. Well, then in 2022, demand goes up again. So all the things that impact the demand for baby formula, which is the birth rate, obviously, the number of babies being born, the rate of breastfeeding for women, whether they're breastfeeding more, breastfeeding less. The trends are that women breastfeed up to 6 months to a year, and then they don't breastfeed anymore. More women in the workforce, they don't breastfeed as much. So they're using more formula, is what the basically translation is. Now, the interesting thing about baby formula, it's a highly regulated product.
With good reason.
With good reason.
Keep in mind,
With good reason. It's the cost to entry for a new firm is very high. You have to go through the FDA and you have to get your facilities inspected. You have to get your product inspected. The interesting thing about baby formula on top of that is the government purchases more than 50% of all baby formula in the United States. And they purchase it for the Women's and Infants and Children's Supplemental Nutrition Program, WIC.
Got it. Right.
So 50% of that goes into that program. What's unique is the way the program is set up. The federal government gives the money, the states administer the program, but the states are required to contract with only one producer. So Tennessee contracts with either Abbott or Reddick.
Okay.
Right, so that's Similac or Infamil. So every state only contracts with one. So that's 50% of the supply. What happens with the stores like Walmart, Kroger, Target, and all those stores, well, if they already have to have so much of that one product for the supplemental program, they tend to favor that product. So they carry that product, they give that product a lot of shelf space, and they don't carry the competitors as much. Because each store that participates in a program is required to keep a certain stock of that particular product on the shelves. So they focus on that. Hospitals then tend to focus on that same product in that state.
All right.
Those two companies are very good at getting mothers onto their products. So physicians, they give physicians a lot of free samples for new mothers. New mothers get their babies on that product. One thing about baby formula is it has high switching costs. What that means essentially is once you're using a specific brand, you don't go out tomorrow and just buy a new brand. If your baby is acclimated to that formula, you're not going to just go try some competitor's brand, because a lot of babies have different reactions to different formulas. They won't like it, they may throw up on it, whatever the case may be. So once you
find one
that's
brand, working, you stick with
it.
Though the others won't necessarily be harmful, but why switch something that's worked? Parents are prone to stay with something that works, which makes sense.
Unless you have a baby with allergies. You know, we have a lot of special,
right?
Yeah,
there's special formulas.
That you can't switch from.
Right.
So we have a highly governmental controlled industry through regulations as well as the WIC program, which is really gearing certain producers to certain states. So there's only two major producers of baby formula, and that is Reddick and Abbott. Nestle, that's 80% of your market right there. Nestle, who produces Gerber, that's about 10% of the market, and the remaining 10 is just miscellaneous, smaller companies. So on top of all that we just talked about, in February of this year, Abbott had a plant up in Michigan that they found a bacteria.
Right.
That they didn't find it necessarily in the formula, but it was in the plant, so that's a problem. They closed the plant. That particular plant produced 20% of the formula in the United States.
All of a sudden, that's off the table.
That's off the table.
Wow.
So now you've got already production problems because they can't get the ingredients in, they can't get the packaging in. You know, people underestimate, I've got all this formula made, but I don't have the boxes to put it in, because the boxes are sitting in China somewhere waiting to get on a ship to get into the United States.
And the ships aren't moving.
And the ships aren't moving. So you've got all those factors at one time. You've got a shortage of baby formula at that point.
All right, I think one of the big stories over the weekend was showing one of those big planes landing. I think it was in Indianapolis, was it not? And Indiana, anyway. And I think it came from Germany. So shipments, again, the White House, trying to get this up and going, Operation Fly Formula. We're having, at least temporarily, to bring in formula from Europe, it appears.
Right, and as it turns out, we only have about 2% of the market is imported. So imports right now are only approved from Mexico, Ireland, and Netherlands. Okay. So the product that came in this weekend came from the Netherlands, came through Germany, but it came from the Netherlands. So we only have 2% imports. There's 18% tariffs on baby formula.
And by the way, and I don't know if you know this, are there different requirements, like you made very clear, the FDA very strictly controls things in this country. I don't know if it's the same companies manufacturing it for Europe as well. Okay, so they're under the same guidelines. Because you worry about, if I'm a parent and they're importing it and it's coming from Europe, I just say, well, okay, that sounds good to me. I want to make sure it's of the same quality of what I was buying in this country. That's not a concern, is it? It's
actually not. It's interesting. You hear in the media that it could be a concern. Okay. For the European Union, the U.S. product actually doesn't meet their standards. Gotcha. It doesn't meet their standards for level of iron or DHA, which is an omega-3 fatty acid. So actually the EU, the European Union product, is actually more stringent than ours. So the product coming from the Netherlands or Ireland is actually going to be, I won't say better, but it's under the same or higher standards.
So there shouldn't be a concern there. Okay.
Right. And then Mexico, of course, has been approved, at least our standards, for those imports.
Okay. So anyway, that's a good point then. It comes from Europe. It should be every bit as good as what we had here. But that's a temporary fix, right? I mean, obviously. So, I guess looking forward then, what exactly is it going to take? The same supply chain issues for all these other products that we're running into, it applies to baby formula. None of it's going to get better until what?
Well, the plant's got to get opened. Okay. And they have an agreement to open a plant in Michigan. Yeah. You're looking at a week or two to gear up. You're looking at probably 4 to 6 weeks until product starts hitting the shelves. So you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks.
But is there still an issue with packaging, like you said? I mean, getting...
Well, less so.
Okay.
So shipping's gotten better. Right, so out in California, there's not 100 ships waiting on in the sea anymore. There's still more than usual. I don't have the exact count. It's still more than usual.
Yeah.
But things are flowing a little better than they used to be, last time I was here at least. So I think the packaging is not going to be the holdup. The holdup is really getting the production up and running, getting the formula made, and then getting it shipped. We still have some shipping problems in the United States. So we still have truck driver shortage to a certain degree.
Let's take a break. We're going to talk about that too, because that guides us
Right.
to it. And we're using, the baby formula as a good example this morning, and because it certainly affects and is very important to so many families. But we just laid out the bigger picture, and then as you get down to delivery and such, truck driver shortage, and hey, have you seen the price of diesel and how that's affecting things as well? We'll talk more this morning with Richard Tarpey from over at MTSU. He clearly knows his stuff. We're on Facebook. I'll be scrolling through and looking if some of you have questions or comments along those lines. James and others who are on hold on the phone, we'll get to your calls as well. If you have questions about how all the supply chain issue is working, maybe what you can do, we'll be back with more right after this.